What's up? It's Phil from Fit Will Expose. In today's episode, we have a very special guest, Daniel McKim. Now, some of you guys may not know who he is because he's a world champion, four-time Highland Game competitor. And this sport, if you guys don't already know about it, it's super badass, and he's going to talk about it today. So you guys have seen me talk to powerlifters, bodybuilders, strongman competitors, even like some Olympic weightlifters every now and then. But one sport you guys really have to start looking at, it's really entertaining and just cool, is the Highland Games. It's like a sport, in my opinion, that's very underrated. You type it in on YouTube and it doesn't really get the love that it deserves, in my opinion. So Daniel's going to talk about it today, and that's about it. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, and I appreciate you bringing me on, dude. It's not many times you get to talk about a cool sport like the Highland Games, so I appreciate
Oh,
you giving some exposure to the sport, man.
for sure, for sure. So it's like I told you before, I'm working on this Silverback book, and as I was designing the system, and I'm still designing it, I was watching a lot of Highland Game competitors, and they tend to train in a very Silverback style. They're doing tons of snatch grip lifts, tons of behind the neck push presses from various angles, close grip, wide grip, and heavy caber curls, whatever. Like they just train in a very explosive manner, and like they're all yoked. And to all you guys curious, Daniel's actually natural. So if you mind telling us like your stats, you said you're 6'5".
Yeah, 6'5" and anywhere between 295 and 305, depending on. It seems like off season I hit about 305 in season. I sometimes lose a little bit, hit 295, 300. But yeah, that's my stats. My best bench press is 500 pounds. Squatted 600. Not very good deadlifter, kind of like you're talking about with some of the training. I've not felt like deadlift has been real important to throwing far, personally. So deadlift 570. But kind of what you're talking about, some of the snatch and the grip stuff has been really important for me as a thrower. I've done a 425 hang clean and a 341 hang snatch. It's been my best lifts as well. So that's a little bit about me. But yeah, exactly, man. 100% lifetime drug free.
And you've been training how many years?
Oh
Around.
man. I started in high school, but I'd say I really got serious when I was 20 years old. So going on 16 years.
16 years, okay. And like to all the audience, he's at a heavier body weight. So like these are very achievable stats. If you're 310 pounds and you reach like you're benching over 400 pounds, like it makes perfect sense. So it's like
Hmm.
these stats are completely obtainable naturally if you're at a heavy body weight, just like Daniel is. So first things first, let's talk about the Highland Games because I know a lot of people have no clue what this even is, especially a lot of my
Yeah.
viewers. So you mind just explaining to us, like, just in a nutshell, what it is? Powerlifting is the
Yeah.
big three. What's Highland Games? Like, what are like the main events? How do you win Highland Games? Is it like who could throw the heaviest object the furthest? Because that's what people think it is. What's the whole
Yeah.
sport about?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the history of the Scottish Highland Games, it was kind of really a clan versus clan. Let's take the biggest, strongest guy from this clan and let's pit him against the biggest, strongest guy from this clan. Let's see who can throw things the furthest. And a lot of times that they talk about the British took away the weapons from the Scottish, and so they had to use stones, they had to use cabers, which are poles, and hammers. And they had to throw these things, and it was kind of a training to be a warrior, really. And that's what's really cool about the sport is it's the heritage of it is a warrior sport. It is a challenging and who can be the biggest, who can be the strongest, who can throw the furthest. So in modern day in Highland Games, what it is it's 8 events, sometimes spread over 2 days. It's kind of like a big man's decathlon, right? If you're familiar with track and field, you if you win one event and you get last in the next event, that doesn't help you, even if you won the first one, right? You've got to
Mm.
be you've got to be solid through multiple events, and so it's got to be a discipline to where over 8 events, you get the most. Sorry, you accumulate the least amount of points, if you will, over the 2 days. So it's much like the decathlon, but for bigger dudes wearing kilts.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, and
So,
it's the
so,
events.
sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good, man. And like the events are, we throw two different stones, kind of like the shot put. We throw two different weights, a 56 and a 28-pound weight. We throw two different hammers, 16 and 22-pound hammer, which is essentially a shot put on a 50-inch pole handle. And then, of course, the weight over bar, which is much like the keg toss for height. Some of you all might have seen Halfthor Bjornsson throw around. He'll comes out with us and throws
Yeah.
the weight over bar. We're trying to get him to do the rest of the events, but he doesn't want to do them. But because it takes a lot of practice and technique work. And then of course the caber, which as everybody knows is a long tree-like implement.
Okay, so if we take powerlifting where it's the big three, are you saying the Highland Games is pretty much like the big eight? Like those are the eight events and you always
Yeah.
know what to expect? There's no like surprises, like you just go in and it's those eight events at all times?
Yeah, it's going to be those 8 events virtually every time. Some games, different ones I've competed at, may only throw 5 events. Most always, you're going to throw 7 to 8 events. Sometimes, based on the field or history, they may only throw one hammer or one stone or whatever. What's crazy about this is you don't always know what you're going to get. Right? This sport is hundreds of years old. So, especially in Scotland, I can go throw a 56-pound weight that's maybe 12 inches tall. Right, standard is 18 inches with the weight and the handle, right? But you may go to Scotland and it may be 12 inches tall because that's what they've thrown for 150 years in its history, right? So you've got to practice, but you got to realize it's not standardized like track, right? The stone is a river stone, so some games it may be 16 pounds, and the next when you go next week might be 18 and a half. So you've got to be prepared for the different things and the different implements throughout the time.
Interesting. So how does it work as far as winning? Because I keep talking about powerlifting, but the big threes, that's your total. Is it like in Highland Games where I don't know, you throw the 56-pounder like a couple feet, then you and like let's say it's like 12 feet or something, and you add up all the feet together and like you get like 120 feet. Does it work like that or no?
No, they're treated as individual events, right? So if I
Okay.
get first in one event, I get 1 point. If I get second in another event, I get 2 points. So at the end of the day, whoever has the fewest amount of points. So if I've got 12 points in the day and you have 10,
Okay,
you
that's
beat
how.
me.
Okay, but
Yeah.
ideally you'd get what? Like, what's the highest points you could get?
The highest points you could get is first in every event, so you get 8 points. The best
8 points.
points. So it's almost like golf, right? You want the lower score, the better. But that's the beauty of it because you have some guys come in from track and field background, and they may dominate the stones, but then they get last in the next events. Or powerlifters or strongmen come in, and they're really good at the caber or the weight over bar because they've thrown keg toss, right?
Yeah.
But then they struggle in the other events. So it's you've got to have everyone has their weak events, kind of like I imagine in powerlifting, right? If you're hitting your total, I know for me in the powerlifting total, like I have a bad deadlift, right? So if I want to improve my total, the best way is to improve my worst events, right? So
Of
that's
course.
the beauty of Highland Games is train those weak events, and that's you can see big jumps in the sport.
So just out of curiosity, why would you pick Highland Games over something like Strongman? Like, what is it about the Highland Games that really you know, that gets you excited? Like,
Yeah, man, I was a thrower in college, right? I threw shot put, discus, and hammer, and it didn't take me long to realize Olympics were never going to be my future. So actually, one night I was staying up late. I used to love watching World's Strongest Man, and ESPN2 used to actually cover the Scottish Highland Games. I was staying up late one night, I'm sure studying, right, in college, and they were covering it and they were showing it, and I was like, dude, this is awesome. Big dudes throwing heavy
yeah,
stuff, and you get to wear a kilt. That's awesome.
yeah,
So I actually just started. I was like, man, I already love to throw. Let's see what else is out there. I started at 255. I graduated college at 255. I was a big dude, right? Fairly big dude thrower in college. And then I went out to my first comp and I realized, dude, if I want to be competitive at this, the best dudes are between 285 and 350. Like, I got some work to do, bro. Like, I need to put on some weight. And so that was a whole new challenge for me, right? Is to lift, to get stronger, get bigger, and realize I need that extra body weight. You already talked about it. Need that extra body weight to be stronger and to counter some of the heavier implements. But that's kind of how I got into it. I always loved strongman, but honestly, you've already brought it on. I mean, if I wanted to be really competitive in strongman at the international level, I'd have to sacrifice some of my morals in terms of being a clean athlete. And the Scottish Highland Games, that's what's great is we are drug tested. You wish it was always more, more hard nosed and stringent than it is, but we are drug tested, and that's something I appreciate.
I like how you talk about like the higher body weights and and being stronger and stuff too. Because the way I actually discovered you was the first Highland game competitor I was talking to was Steve Paulsonella. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I know Steve
Yeah,
really well.
And
Yeah.
he's like super funny. Like the dude even lifts shirts, but like he has like this funny quote on Instagram where it's like, "Nice abs, now go gain 150 pounds," you know? And it's, it's like, and he's always talking about like just like bigger, stronger. He's like, when you go to the gym, you're going to get bigger, stronger. You're not cutting down or anything like that. And it's just like,
Yeah.
you look at Highland Game competitors, they look like giants. You know, they're all like six, I'm 5'11". I would be a short Highland Game competitor. You know, like they're all like six. They're all like over 250. They're all like throwing heavy stuff. You know, and they're all like in the gym. They're doing all these like explosive lifts. You know, they're doing like snatch grip, high pulls, hang cleans, just like push presses. So I'm
Yeah.
guessing that's the kind of training that really carries over to the heavy throws, right? Like all these like cheat curls, like caber curls, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's those snatch events. You even talked about it, right? The stuff from the hang, whether that's cleans or snatches or whatever it is it's even explosive heavy shrugs. That's one thing I talked about. I have an opportunity to talk to some coaches right at a clinic, different strength coaches, and I kind of posed the question. I'm kind of interested what you think is some of the most explosive, the strongest athletes that you'll see in a gym or at an athletic event are your throwers. Now, are they just genetically predispositioned to be just jump higher, be stronger, more explosive, move weight quicker? Or is there something in the way they train that we can then take and add to other sports? Like you're talking about with your Silverback book, right? Is there something we can take from seeing throwers? They're big, they're strong, they have big traps, big upper body, they're explosive from the hips, they're great athletes. Are they built that way? Or is there something from their training that you
Yeah,
can take into that and apply to other sports? I don't know.
it's for sure a mixture of both. You know, the training for
Yeah.
sure has to do with it too. You know, but I'm curious though from your like the snatch grip high pull, right? It's like that's like my favorite lift of all time. And like, what's your best like from the hang, like just one rep? Because I was talking
Is
to
one
Steve, he
rep?
said he did 500, so I'm just curious. Like,
Oh, 500-pound snatch grip deadlift?
no, high
You did
pull,
that?
high pull.
High pull. I don't know. I've not done it before. I've always, in my sport, I feel like high pulls are of some importance, but I feel like in my sport, I want to go ahead and catch it,
The
right?
snatch.
So
So
it's
you
like
do
an
the
overhead. I want to do the full snatch, right?
okay,
Now
okay.
I've done some snatch grip high pulls in the past. I didn't, I don't remember what I've done. I've always said it, but I always feel like if I'm going to pull it, I want to go ahead and catch it. I feel like that's more relatable to my events. But
Interesting.
500-pound snatch grip high pull is insane.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah, yeah. But he's also telling me, I was talking to him today, saying how like a lot of these lifts, like you know the high pulls and stuff like that, it helps when you're at a heavier body weight. You know, if you weigh 300 pounds, and it just you just have more like more bounce off the legs. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the ability to counter the weight, and that's why Steve was such a good thrower, and he was also a strongman as well, is because he understood how to work that weight right to even counter the implements to counter his pulls.
Exactly.
There's
Yeah.
definitely something to be said about that.
But like just to the viewers and also to myself, like if someone wants to get like a good high pull, like let's say 405 or something, you know, just to the nipple line, what would be like what would be your best pieces of advice besides like gaining weight? Like what would be like I don't know some assistance lifts or just like say someone really wanted to prioritize that lift just
Yeah,
for their own reasons.
I think a great way to do that, honestly, is like a power shrug, is what I call it, right? Not the standard strict shrug that you're going to work, but where you strap up, you work, get in the rack, and you just boom, 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 because you've got to be able to hit that. If you want to get a really big snatch grip high pull, it's going to be starting from that, whether that's from a snatch grip or a conventional Olympic grip, getting that explosive because it's got to come from the hips, right, and the low
Yeah.
back even. It's not just a upper body thing. But you're exactly right because I think of what's funny is you said silverback. Those silverback gorillas got the big old. They got potatoes like on their shoulders, right? They're
Oh, it's
so big,
ridiculous. Yeah.
the traps, and and you want to mimic that look. And you're exactly right. I think like a snatch grip high pull. That's a great way to do that.
Well, it's funny you said because that's pretty much like I've talked to so many people about it, and like everyone's giving me mixed answers. Some people are telling me, you know, do heavy like stupid heavy like swings, you know, to really get that hip power.
Mm.
But from what I've been noticing, I'm not even a good high puller either. I've done like you know 3 plates for like 5x5, whatever, to like the nipple line. But
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like a plate away from my goal. But what I've been noticing from trial and error is that like some really heavy like power shrugs, you know, So right now, if I'm
Yeah.
doing like 7 plates, if I could get my snatch grip power stroke to maybe like 1,000 pounds for like a couple reps, and like if I can make my traps, or like if I could really like get it like here, like if I get my traps to literally touch my ears, so not like a half rep, but like a full rep, I think it should
Yeah.
carry over.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
think, and also
You,
like it'll work with the grip too, you know, because even if you're wearing straps with the snatch grip, it's still working your grip. Like your hands still have to work pretty hard.
yeah. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
what's your take on bands though? You think band like a band high pull, like you attach bands to snatch grip high pull, you think that would work or?
Yeah, actually, that's funny you brought that up. I did that. I've done that a few times just experimenting, but it is tough. But I love it, right? So the resistance just increases that much because I feel like so why I think it'd be a great resistance lift for that is because right. So one of the things is you're creating energy, right? When you're doing a high pull, you're creating energy, and sometimes we ride the top half, right? We're not still pulling, or it's hard to because the bar is already moving. You put those bands on there, it is a game changer. I don't know if you've done it or you thought about it, but you put bands on there and do high pulls, it is a game changer. And especially out of the at the bottom, right, as it pulls it down, it's a tough lift. You know, I mean, athletically, I don't know how applicable it is, but it is. You want to talk about getting sore in that upper trap and upper back area? It'll do the trick.
What about some other variations of the actual high pull? 'Cause we said the power shrug, but what about like something like a clean grip high pull
Yep.
or like what
Yeah.
Klokov does where he does high pulls and like he's keeping his legs stiff. So it's like a straight leg high pull.
Yep.
Like what are your take on like other variations to help improve the snatch grip? Are there any other
Yeah.
ones that you like or?
Yeah, one of the things, maybe not a variation, but something I like to do is like on my rack, I have a PVC pipe that I stick in the holes, and I stick it right at chest or nipple level, right? Because a lot of
Hmm.
times I feel like when we're high pulling, we cheat, and that's just so we pull, but then we push our chest down to it, right? And so we're kind of cheating ourselves and cheating the pull. To put a, so I've even had other throwers will put a band up in their rack, so there's that visual cue, right? So with me in a PVC pipe, I know I have to pull it. Even if I pull myself down, it doesn't matter. I've got to pull high enough to where the bar, and you can hear a bar, you can hear it hit that PVC pipe. I had another friend who did a rope with a washer on the end of it at the height he wanted to reach. So he knew when he got high enough was when that washer came off the ground, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because I
So,
think we sometimes we pull it, but we push, you know, right? We pull ourselves down to the bar instead of pulling it all the way up.
okay, but as it gets heavier though, like you're bound to do kind of like a lean forward a slight bit to kind of, you know.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, but
are you saying when it gets really heavy, you want to basically try to teach yourself to kind of like duck, like kind of like get under it, so like kind of reduce the range of motion a bit to.
no, I think that's part of what we do is when we go heavier and we can't pull it as high, we push. You know what I mean? We pull down to it. So like all of a sudden our range of motion is here, right? When we're at the beginning sets, and then as we get heavier, it's here, right?
Okay.
So I want to work that full range of motion. So the best way to do that is to make it so I don't cheat. Putting cues up there so that I know I pulling all the way up on it.
Oh, okay. Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Enough.
all of a
Yeah.
sudden a high pull turns into just like you said a power shrug. But
No, that's it. Like the way I see it is if it doesn't touch the nipple line, like, because there's guys actually like saying that, like I posted some videos and people said, oh, like some real like do or die Olympic weightlifters are like, oh, Phil, it's not touching the chin, you know, so it's like it's not a high pull, you know, it's like a Chinese pull or something. They'll call it something else, but to me, and like if you look at guys like I don't know Christian Thibodeau, like a high pull is like nipple line or above, you know. And even
yep,
if it's not like
absolutely.
as far as my standards are concerned, like that's what I call a high pull for me, you know.
Yeah.
If you're pulling it to like your belly button, it's like a shrug, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But enough about like the high pulls. Though. Let's move on to something else. Like I noticed that I've been analyzing a lot of Highland Game competitors, looking at the way they've been training their upper bodies, and I rarely see much benching. Like from what I'm seeing, I see a lot of standing lifts done with like extremely heavy weights and like just crazy momentum. So do you guys ever do like strict presses standing, or is it mostly just push presses, jerks,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
stuff like
man,
that?
that's a good question. There are so many different rules of thought with that in our sport. I'm a strict press guy. I strict overhead press, and I more or less strict bench press, right? I don't do pause like a touch and go, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of throwers that do ballistic bench press, what they call like a horizontal jerk, to where they'll actually really bounce it off the chest, get that explosive, and the same way with overhead, with jerks and push presses. But there's so many different thoughts of that, but I'm probably of the minority in the sport. I'm a strict press guy. I've found that when I do strict overhead press, just right here in front, knees locked, my stones go further, especially the heavier stones. I feel that as my bench press gets stronger, my stones get stronger too. So there's really two different camps when it comes to that.
I've noticed a lot of Highland game guys also do a lot of like behind the neck work. Like I don't know if you know, I'm just naming random guys at you, but Ernie Beath,
Yeah,
patriotic Highlander. Like I
huge, strong dude.
watch all this guy's videos, and I've noticed him. He does like some very unique lifts. He does a lot of Zercher lifts, but he does a ton of like behind the back, like close grip, or like just variations of behind the back, like push presses and like jerks and stuff like that. And is that like how does that carry over to like to Highland games if the weight's like behind your back?
I like it. The few times in my career, I guess that I've done jerks, I prefer to go behind the back. Just it's more comfortable for me, and I think it's more of a comfort thing, right? From all the years of throwing shot and then throwing a stone, I have bad wrist mobility, so it's really hard to rack that front rack position. So I feel like it's not that important whether it's front or back, whichever is comfortable to you and whichever you can get the work in, especially when it comes to our sport.
Do you personally feel like you're stronger? Like is your push press behind the back stronger than your push press from the front?
Yeah, it is for me
For
because
sure.
I can load that, right. Especially at push press, I can load because I have it rested against my shoulders, if you will. If I'm here, I don't have that front rack. Like Olympic lifters really get
Yeah.
that front rack right on the clavicle. I just don't have that mobility, so it's out here, and it's really hard for me to push press in the front. That's why I think personally, it maybe like a log press would be better for me, right? I think that's a underutilized variation of overhead pressing that I think that more people besides strongman could actually use, and maybe that'd have been a better option for me is that log press.
Mhm. And I guess all like the snatch grip lift, all these snatch grip lifts you're doing, like the upper back is just so beefy that it just bounces off anyways. Like when you do the
Yeah, you try, right? It
yeah
always looks more impressive that way.
yeah. But what are your goals, like current goals, like right now in like the Highland Games, like with the level you're at? Like, what are like some lifts you
Yeah,
really want to improve in the gym, or just events you want to really improve on?
yeah, yeah. I think the hard part for me, man, honestly, is I retired from the sport this past September. I've had an awesome run, man. I've been throwing since 2007, so 11 years. Won 4 world championships, 6 U.S. championships. I have a couple of world records. It's been an incredible blessing, something that God's done in my life that I didn't ever think was possible. So, honestly, for me, man, as I'm looking at what's next, right? It's not strong, man. Maybe I've been working on my deadlift.
In
So
powerlifting, yeah.
maybe I'll jump into powerlifting meet is kind of what I've been thinking. But I still love to train, man. That's the hard part. Is I love to train heavy. I want to be strong. So I would like to, improve my deadlift and maybe even get a 550-pound bench press before I'm done. I don't know. I've got some different goals I'm mulling in my head lately.
Mm. But I think that's what it all comes down to, just about having fun with it and just always just setting goals.
Yeah,
And even like if you're
absolutely.
injured or something, it just like set a new goal. And that's why like I respect Scott Mendelson, like with the
Mm.
powerlifting. I think he got into like an accident or something, and he didn't let that stop him. He's just like, okay, I can't. My shoulder's like fucked. I'm gonna get into arm wrestling. And now you
Yeah,
just see him like doing arm wrestling now, and it's just like there's so many different strength sports to choose from. And it's just like
yeah,
there's something out there for everybody, no matter what you want to do. Like there's something like badass that you could do.
yeah.
And they're
And
all pretty
train for something,
badass.
right? Just
Yeah.
like you said, man. Train for something. Have goals. Have fun. Like what an awesome time to be alive. To where we get to train our bodies and to get stronger or to get leaner, right? And get more explosive. It's awesome, man.
And just setting goals, bro, and just like sharing your goals with other people and like motivating others. It's like it's a cool feeling.
Yeah.
But okay, as far as the training, so let's go. Let's get back to Highland Games, like because I've been doing a ton of like my homework, just researching these guys and just looking at the way they've been training. But especially guys like Steve Paul Snella and Ernie Beath. That's how you pronounce his name. And from what I've been seeing, I'm not seeing a ton of back squats. I'm seeing a lot of like super heavy front squats. And do you think that's more like of a requirement for the sport of Highland Games, like to have a really good front squat? It's like to really
Yeah.
build that upper back once again and the core strength and
Yeah. Oh man, that's a great question. I've done I've done both. The first half of my career was all front squats. I didn't even back squat at all. Right. I
okay.
was just because I wanted to save my low back. Front squats felt better, and a lot of people who talked about it, it's more applicable to the sport. Right. That front, that interior load and interior strength. But honestly, again, I maybe flipped on the camp too because the last 6 years or so, I've still front squatted some, but I've felt like the back squat has been more applicable to me throwing further.
Oh
The
really?
sport is so posterior dominant, right? Whether that's chucking a caber or throwing a hammer, it's so posterior dominant. And so for me, I've had to, and I feel like now, like new goals, you talk about new goals. I'm very posterior dominant because of the thousands and thousands of throws in the field I've done, the way I've trained to go further. My body is very posterior dominant right now. And so I've got to change some of that, like get some more anterior strength in my quads, right? And hopefully fix my, my knees not hurt as bad in the future. So I guess I'm kind of the different camp, right? I've done both. I've done just front squat and I've done heavy back, mostly back squat. I think it's kind of differing on what you want to do, but I've done them both, man.
Yeah, I've been obsessed with the front squat lately. I think it's just like because it ties into. I don't want to talk too much about my book, but like it ties into Silverback philosophy. Like it's one. I think it's the squat that actually hits the upper back the hardest. I think
Oh, yeah.
more than the Zercher, more than the back squat, improves your posture, and it just like if you could do like some super heavy front squats, like it just carries over so well, and especially if you're going really deep and if you pause, carries over so well to like your snatch grip deadlifts and like rows and all your back lifts. So from getting a bigger front squat, it makes you stronger on all the back lifts. You just get a bigger and stronger back overall, and like you still get strong. Like the back squat, it still happens too. But the front squat, it hits your upper back in like a very unique way because you can't lean forward.
Yeah.
So it's
What are your
like,
thoughts on how you rack your front squat? Are you hands? Are you straps? Are you
well,
crossed? Are you?
well,
There's so
that's the
many
thing.
different ways.
I'm kind of playing around with different things. Like me, I like to cross, to be honest. It's more
Hmm.
comfortable for me. But I'm looking at like, and I'm asking people around. I'm testing it for myself. Like, what's better for like, what's gonna benefit the upper back more? Like your posture more. Is it just having a? I'm pretty sure it is the clean grip though. It would
Yeah.
make more sense than like the California style, whatever. But yeah, it's a good lift, though. But like, what will be your just like how I asked you about the high pull? What will be your approach for somebody who's really trying to get like a good front squat? Like, let's say they want to hit like they eventually want to hit like 500 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest thing I had to do is I used to do a cross or a modified cross, and it kept slipping, right? It kept falling forward. So for me, first step was actually to hit that deep. And I have to use straps, right? We already talked about my wrist mobility. I'll put lifting straps. You might have seen it before. So you can hold it, right? And you're holding it up here, it's deep in here, almost passed out. I forget, like the day that I like front squats clicked for me was the day that I started to pass out.
Oh wow,
Because I had it so deep in my neck and I started to pass out and I had to bail on the front squat. And I was like, dude, that was bad. But I was like, man, but I was in a great
but
position,
it
right?
feels yeah
I
yeah
was
yeah.
just, I was feeling real good. I fired right out of the hole and I was like, got half up and I was just like, oh boy, I had to dump it, right? But that's what really clicked for me is like, okay, when I'm almost going to choke out, that's where I'm getting in real good position. Because you're right, it fixes your posture, right? I was so upright. I was right in the money spot. But I think for that, and then good mornings are a good way too to increase your front squat and to work that. And honestly, I think for me is lunges. I think like
With the front
dumbbell or
squat
barbell
grip,
lunges. What's that?
with the front squat grip, like no, no, I mean okay, you said lunges. I heard like Bulgarian split squat. Never mind. With
Yeah,
lunges,
well,
okay.
single leg squats, step ups. But for me, lunges have been huge too. And it doesn't have to be front squat lunges, right? It can be on your back. I do a lot of just dumbbell lunges, just getting those reps. Those are things that have helped me through the years too.
What's your take on okay, well, first off, do you feel like you're stronger with the strap grip or like cross arm?
Oh, strap grip, 100%.
Oh, really? You feel like
100%,
you
yeah,
keep your
because I
elbows
can get it
higher?
deeper. Yeah, I keep my elbows higher, and it locks in. It kind of like stacks my back as well, right? So if I'm crossed here, you kind of get rounded back, and you're here in front. But if I get here, I'm so much stronger, and I'm more compact as my frame, and you just line up so great.
But when you made the transition, did you feel like you were stronger instantly, or was the strap grip something that you really had to get used to, like within like a few months, and then you kind of
No, I think it was
instantly?
probably right there that first workout. I was like, this isn't going to work. Some guy told me, he's like, hey man, you got to feel like you're going to pass out. I'm like, that's stupid. I'm not going to do that. And then it was my first set. I kind of got in the groove, and then that's what happened. In my second or third set, it came out, and I was like, man, I got out of the hole, and I was like, man, I am feeling great. And then boom, and I was like, okay, maybe I had a little too set back there that time, but once I
Interesting.
got it set, man, it just really totally game changer.
And I'm sure, like the strap grip and the clean grip, like for sure carry over more to your push press, anyways,
Yeah,
because the
that's
hand
true.
position. But I want to know, like, what's your take on people who say that the front squat, like, ISO hold walkout. So you'll load up like, 100, 110, 120% your one rep max, and you just step out. You just like hold that position for like, 10 to 30 seconds. Have you ever
Yeah.
tried that?
No, I'm not. I've not been a big fan of honestly ISO holds. Sorry, walkout holds. I feel like the overload isn't super conducive to what I would do. What I've done in the past is I did about a 6 or 8 month block of triphasic training. If you're not familiar with that, it's Cal Dietz, and what it is it's breaking your blocks into the eccentric, 6 second descent, isometric, and then concentric loads, right? Honestly, if you're looking for ISO holds, I would say that. Come out in the front squat, and this is brutal front squat. Do an eccentric, 6 second descent. 1, 2, 3. When you hit the bottom, that 6 second is when you come out of it. Now you can also do an isometric, right? Get down to hold, pause for 6 seconds in the hole, and then come out. Those are hard. But what's a great way to do that, honestly, is that eccentric. Is if you have spotters to do that 120%. Now this is
Okay,
brutal. You
there's an
got to have your
advanced
spotters
method,
lifted
but
off you.
yeah.
Yeah, your spotters got to lift off you. But man, doing an eccentric 6 second descent on a front squat or back squat with 120% of your max, that is brutal. That'll post you. But your lifters are able to lift it off you and come help you up out of the hole. But it is
Yeah, I can
tough.
imagine. It's like the equivalent of doing like what's it called? Those heavy negatives, the bench.
Yep. Yep. Having negatives and having your buddy lift it off of you. But man, doing that with a front squat, I've even done super heavy Hatfield squats with that. And so that's anyway. So I feel like you're forcing the muscles right here. If I'm just standing up with, that's more of stabilizing, right? I'm just working stabilizers, if you will, because I can stand up with a. But if I hit that bottom and I'm holding out of the bottom or doing an eccentric, man, that just lights you up.
Hmm. And I'm guessing like it would be smart too. Like even if you're trying to get like a really good front squat, it's also have some back squats in the mix, obviously too, right? Like a high bar or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. One's gonna help improve the other, right?
Yeah. Like I don't think anyone's gonna reach their front squat like genetic potential without having some back squats in the mix either.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about the actual event training because we're talking so much about like the actual like just training for it. But how much time like how many days a week do you actually like I don't know go on the field and actually just practice the events?
Yeah. No, that's a good question, man. Man, for me, honestly, I am not the biggest. I'm not the strongest thrower. I've never been the most athletic. So for me, I feel like I've got to outwork people. I've got to put technique and I've got to put a lot of time in. So through the years, man, it's typically been a sometimes 8 month commitment in the season, right? So 3, 4 days a week, hour and a half, 2 hours every time, and you're throwing 3 or 4 days a week, and then I'm lifting 4 to 5 days a week as well. That's what it's taken for me through the years, and it's a big time commitment, right? Because like we talked about, there's 8 different events, there's 8 different disciplines you've got to train for. So there's you've got to spend a lot of time in the field, but it's a lot of explosive stuff, right? You talked about it. It's explosive movements, it's explosive sport.
Hmm. So what we're talking like ideally you'd be spending like what 2 3 days training for the sport. 2 hour sessions, and then you'd have like maybe 2, 3 days in the actual weight room,
Yeah,
something like
I
that.
would do typically for me in season is like a Monday, Thursday, Friday. I'm in the weight room. I'm training there, and then in the field, I'm training like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then a Saturday or Sunday as well on the weekend.
Wow.
So try to break it up, right?
Wow. Okay. Okay, give me 1 second. Um, okay. Okay, we're about to wrap it up. Just looking for the last question.
Yeah, man.
Okay, yeah, this is the one. How because you just said technique. So how important is technique really? Because I'm sure you get some really big and strong guys who come into the sport and they just think they're gonna dominate it. How important? I know it's important, but how important is it really like to
Yeah.
really throw it? And are there some cases where the guy's not even that big or strong, but his technique is just so spot on that like he tends to win a lot?
Yeah, yeah, no, man, that's the fun thing about Highland Games, right? It's the great tango, it's the great waltz between the two. If you don't spend your time out in the field and you're just get big, strong, yeah, you might be good in the caber, weight over bar, but you're not going to have the footwork or the technique in some of the other events. But you're exactly right. You're exactly right. So many guys through the years have come through, usually like a big time D1 thrower, and they're like, dude, this guy's talented, right? He's got super, but he doesn't have the technique in, right? Or he's not as
Hmm.
perhaps strong. Kind of like I was when I came in. I was 255. I was like, man, I got throwing background. I'm pretty strong, and I realized this is a totally different ballgame, right? This is the best guys, and I have to look through the years of world champions through the years in the Scottish Highland Games. They are typically, like we talked about, 285 on the light end and 290 to 315 on a lot of those guys are 290 to 315. So you've got to be this great combination of the two. Put the
Hmm.
technique in. You've got to do a lot of work there, but you've got to be strong. There's no bones about it. You've got to be explosive. Whether that's a big clean, you got to have a big clean, big jerk, big snatch, or some guys, big squatters. But it seems like you've got to have the combo of the two
Of course,
if
of
you want to be
course.
successful.
Okay. So this is the question I forgot. It's they say in strongman, this is what some people tend to say. If you have a very good deadlift and a very good strict press, you're most likely gonna be like a somewhat of a good strongman competitor. So what would you say
Mhm.
are those like lifts for Highland Games? Would you say like, hey, if someone could snatch or like a hang snatch, super heavy weights, or if they could like hang clean heavy weights, like what are
Yeah,
like the lifts where it's like, hey, if you're good at like these like 3, 4 lifts, you're most likely gonna like excel at the sport pretty well.
yeah. I think, man, to me, it's got to be the snatch, number one, and number two is probably the clean. Simply because it is so explosive and it's so quick, such a quick, strong movement. Again, we could look back at the stats of the world champions of the last probably 10, 15 years. All of those guys, many of them been able to snatch over 300. Some guys maybe didn't catch, like we talked about, the high pulls. I had a good friend of mine I competed with for years, Mike Pekoski. He was a Olympic trials thrower in the hammer, and then also just really good in the Scottish Highland Games. And that guy never caught and snatched, but doggone, he could high pull like crazy, man. So to me, it's got to be that snatch jerk, or sorry, snatch clean, or pull variation.
Mhm. And then then sprinkle in some technique, and you're gonna be like, okay, all
That's
right.
that's the plan, right? Yeah, take those big lifts, insert thousands of hours of throwing, you're good.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about like technique now for people who are just watching who just want to throw some heavy stuff. Maybe not even the Highland Games, just want to throw some heavy stuff in general.
Yeah,
Like let's talk about like I don't know the exact name of the lift, but the one where like you have the weight and back and like you kind of like they spin or whatever and they just like I forgot what that event was called in the
yeah.
Highland Games.
You stone throw, kind of like a
Stone
shot put
throw,
almost.
shot put,
Yeah.
yeah. So what are some tips, like some basic tips without getting like too technical, you could give some people and even myself to like just throw a heavy stone? like
Yeah.
further?
Yeah. Just to do the glide. The big thing is hips. I'll keep it real simple for you. Like you said,
Yeah, yeah.
turn the foot and the hips point to where you want to throw. Too many people will have their hips back here and and their foot back here, and they're trying to throw this way, and you're fighting against your body. So the biggest improvement people see, honestly, is if I point my hips and my feet this direction that I want to throw, it's going to go a lot further. You get your feet and get your foot and your hips through. Just get your hips through. You're going to find a much improvement.
So it's all like it's pretty much all hips for every lift, just like the heavy like.
Yeah, it is big, big. Yeah, that's why I've through the years I don't clean from the floor or snatch from the floor. I haven't deadlifted really in all my sport because the sport is so, like you said, it's so hip dominant, right? Whether you're throwing a stone up here or a hammer or a weight or a caber,
Interesting.
it's all in that power C position, right? It's that finish, kind of like a high pull. It's like that finish of a snatch or a clean. It's that pull.
Exactly.
It's from the hips.
It's all from it's all like like really heavy like hang lifts basically like.
That man, now you're talking, man. That's what I've always felt like. That's been my opinion. Yeah.
Just heavy hang lift. So that's probably why your deadlift isn't the way you want it to be because you don't really need it to be a super heavy puller from the floor for the sport, no?
Yeah. That's why I always tell people we're never throwing anything from the floor. We're not an Olympic lifter. We're not a strong man who's doing a car deadlift. I have no events from the ground. All the events are from the hang position, if you will, from that power C right there. So the stronger I can get in that position, the further I'm going to throw. So why waste my time? Like we talked about, when I have to spend hours and hours in the field throwing 8 different events and hours in the gym training to get stronger,
Yeah.
why separate myself from here to there and the things that aren't as important? I want to focus on the things that are most important,
Yeah. So
most applicable to my sport.
it's specificity of training, you know.
Boom.
So
Using big words. Yeah, that.
so what about okay, like me, I'm like a snatch grip like whore. Like it's all like if you can ask my viewers, it's all I'm talking about like 24/7. It's like I preach it more than anything else. So I just want to
Yeah.
know from your experience, like diving more into like the bodybuilding type of like mindset, right?
Yeah.
Like how essential do you think snatch grip lifts are for like the upper back? Like
Oh man.
they're insane.
Well,
Like
again, to talk about, you're basing your book off of what I opinion is the best, the strongest looking animal on the planet, right? Which is thinking silverback. What's he got? He's got the huge upper back, and it's the same way with powerlifting or I'm sorry, with bodybuilding. If you've got that strong, the traps and the strong upper back, it makes up for maybe the deficiencies in other areas.
but the upper but the snatch grip lifts, like you would agree that like a snatch grip deadlift for someone who's really like whose main goal is just to get the biggest upper back possible would be a
Yeah.
better lift than like a conventional deadlift, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because it's more
Snatch grip is
specific
better
to
for
it.
that.
Because I
That's
get
why
people
I
all the
feel.
time. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, I get people all the time. Like I posted like a training like compilation video, or whatever, and people were saying, "Phil, why don't you just do a regular deadlift? You know, why are you doing all these like fancy snatch grip lifts?" And they don't really understand like where I'm coming from with the whole. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, no one's saying that the bench press. It's my classic example. No one's saying that the bench press is the best tricep lift, but all of a sudden, when you really narrow the grip, it's like the best tricep builder on the planet.
Hmm.
Close grip bench. So everybody talks about that, but then it's the same thing with the deadlift. You know, no one's saying it's like the best upper back lift on the like. It's more of like a full body lift, the deadlift. You know, but when you
Yeah.
widen out the grip, it's like even if you
It
only widen
changes.
out like semi snatch, like 5 inches, whatever, it's still like the upper back, like the activation you get is way crazier. The range of motion is way longer, and yeah,
Yeah. That's just why I like lap pulls, right? If I want a big upper back, sure, the close grip lap pulls are great, but I want to go wide, right? I want the big V back, right? So my lap pulls are always, I try to get them out as wide as I can. Feels like that's a much better way. So you're right, changing that grip up wider just it seems to totally make a difference in your upper back.
but since you don't do a lot of pulls on the floor because it's not that specific to Highland Games, do you think a
Hmm.
Highland competitor would benefit more from like a snatch grip rack pull like below the kneecap or something?
Yes. Yes, 100%. If that's your choices, yeah, do a rack pull all day over a deadlift.
Okay. So basically, like, if you're a Highland game competitor, you don't even have to pull from the floor. Like, to keep it simple. Like,
I haven't. I haven't. I've got 13 years where I've not pulled. Now I take that. I've done some light straight leg deadlifts, right?
mhm.
Typically, that's not even with a bar. That might be even band. That'd be like a banded pull through, if you will. I've done that just to work my posterior to make sure my hammies and my glutes are healthy. But yeah, I've not. I bet over 13-year career, I stopped in '06. I pulled a couple times. Other than that, I mean, for the last 11, 12 years, I don't pull from the floor when I'm throwing.
Okay. So last question, the last one or two questions, we'll pretty much wrap it up. Let's talk about like drug free, right?
Yeah,
So what motivates you, like to not like enhance yourself?
yeah. No, I've got two different motivations for that. First of all, is my relationship with Jesus Christ, and I feel like as a follower of Him, I owe it to myself and my competitors. I'm not going to cheat, right? That's cheating for one in my sport, but it's cheating my body of what God's called me to be, right? And that's many times illegal. And also, my wife and I have 5 boys, right? So I've got 5 boys at home, and I want them to do what's right and to treat their bodies right and to play by the rules and to be as strong as they can and they want to one day, but I want them to do it fairly. So when my boys sit down with me one day and they look at random trophies and medals and articles and stuff through the years, I can proudly say to them in their face, "Your dad is 100% drug free athlete his whole career." Not everybody can say that, right? So those are my two motivations for that. Is honestly relation with God and my boys. I want to teach them. I want to teach them differently.
And to viewers watching, this isn't to take away from any enhanced athletes. You know, they're obviously hard workers too. Yeah,
Oh
but
yeah, and I
yeah,
never would say that people aren't working hard,
no, for sure. Like, still have
but I
respect for
feel like yeah, no, it's just that's my conviction, right? That's my conviction, and that's been my sport, whether it's track and field or Highland Games, and is that it's not allowed. So
So you feel like there's way more enhanced guys like in and women like in powerlifting and strongman as opposed to Highland Games, right?
yeah, I think that's because there are drug tested divisions and non-drug tested divisions, right? That's not to say that the Highland Games is clean, right? It's far from
Of
that.
course.
There's been people through the years that have been busted, and there's guys that have done it and never been caught. But I hope our sport continues to drug test through the years, and that's what I'm hoping.
But do you think it's like not the most you don't see like that many um drugged up guys because the sport isn't like it's a known sport, don't get me wrong, but like it's
Yeah,
not it's not like super duper mainstream. Let's be real, you know, you go on YouTube,
right.
Highland Games, it's not something like bodybuilding or like powerlifting that's really like especially powerlifting is gaining like crazy popularity along with like, you know, CrossFit.
Sure.
I think there's even other sports. There's other sport I was
Yeah.
looking at too where it's like it's kind of like powerlifting where instead of a bench like a strict press. It's like a new sport, but it's,
Hmm.
the Highland Games. It's pretty underground. At least in Canada where I live. Like I never even
Hmm.
heard Highland Games. So do you think that's why it's not like super
Yeah.
infested with like drugs?
Yeah, I think for one, I think there's a lot of track and field athletes that jump into it, and track and field is much more sanctioned, right, with drugs. So there's that taught with it. Also, there's a lot of history in our sport. I mean, we go back hundreds of years, so it's hard to. You may throw the same implement of 100 years ago that someone else threw at some games over in Scotland, especially. So there's some substance to keeping heritage and keeping culture, right? Of like, hey, this guy threw this and he wasn't enhanced. You don't need to throw this and be enhanced yourself, right? There's that. And then also, you're right. It's a niche sport. It's not that big and well-known sport. There is money to be made. Um, my wife has stayed home with our boys the last, 12 years sorry, 11 years because I was a professional thrower, right? I got been paid to throw and travel the country, be over the world, and to do that. And throwing heavy stuff in a kilt, That's just stinking awesome, right? So there's money to be made, but it is not right. I'm not gonna have thousands and thousands of followers on Instagram because like a powerlifter would or a strongman would. But yeah, the opportunity's there, man.
Sounds like a dream come true, bro. Make a living off throwing heavy weights on a kilt, weighing like 300
Not too
pounds.
bad. Yeah,
So what more could you ask for, you know?
yeah. Now I will say this, probably, and this is where it's different too. Like you said, it's a niche sport. There's only been one guy in the history of our, two guys, I guess, in the history of our sport that I know that have done it as a full-time job. Right? Everybody else has jobs. Like I have a full-time job. It's my part-time job, but doggone, like you said, could you ask for a better second job? Be big, throw heavy stuff in the field with kilt and have thousands of people, sometimes thousands of people watch and cheer for you. Like as a dude, as a thrower, I never got that, right? Nobody ever watches me and cheers, but in the Highland Games, man, people love it.
Do you think it's a sport that's ever gonna be in the Olympics or?
I've wondered that for years. Honestly, I don't think because it isn't standardized across. Um, it is growing. I definitely in North America, it's not growing as much. You've said it, and I've said that for years. But in Europe, right, it's growing in Germany, it's growing in the Czech, it's growing in Norway. There are places in Europe that is pockets in France. I competed in France in 2015 in the courtyard of a 1,000-year-old castle with 7,000 French people in the hillside just cheering and yelling. They were going crazy for the sport. Right? It was awesome. So it's growing in Europe, and I think that's going to be our ticket as a sport. Is growing it in Europe to where there's more opportunities to make money and to travel and do those type of things. Because I don't think it's necessarily going to happen in North America. It's sad to say.
I can see it happening though, for sure.
Yeah.
It's entertaining. People like that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to, I just had a Q&A with like an arm wrestler, and he was saying like even arm wrestling has potential to be like in the Olympics one day, you know, or at least as like a
Oh,
halftime show or something, because the matches are so short, you know.
yeah.
But like if arm wrestling has a chance, then for sure Highland Games, you know.
Yeah.
At least that's the way I see it. But
Probably happen, man. Is I imagine, 15 years from now, when I'm old, retired, and broken down, all of a sudden there'll be all this money to be made. I'll probably be the sideline reporter saying how back in my day we didn't make money like this. Typical. When I'm done is probably when all the money will come in.
But that pretty much wraps it up, bro. I really appreciate you for coming on the channel today. I'm pretty sure the audience loved it too, you know. So if there's any place you want them to reach you at, you could let us know right now, like a website or
Yeah,
something, or
yeah. My website's BelieveThrower.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. McKim Daniel. I've got a couple of books out there. I've got a training book, a throwing book, and then just a humor book. If you're wanting to get in the Highland Games, just reach out to my website or reach out to me, ask any questions. We'd definitely love to connect you with somebody maybe in your area or territory. And hopefully,
yeah, cut off for a sec. Whatever.
are you good?
You mind repeating that? You said and hopefully it cut off.
Yeah, it cut off after. Yeah,
After you said
hopefully you
hopefully,
can jump
yeah.
into the sport. If you have any questions, hit me up on social media. And I would love to help you all however I can. Hopefully get you in touch with somebody in your area or hopefully steer you in the right direction.
Perfect, man. So have a good day, bro, and stay in touch. And thank you
Yeah.
once again.
Thanks for
Appreciate it.
having me on, buddy. Appreciate it, man.
All right, bro. See you later.
See you, bud. Good luck.
Thanks.